Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And in this episode, we're going to look at the audience comments on the Sebastian Rogers analysis. We looked at the words of his mum and his stepdad in an interview. Sebastian, at the time of recording, is currently missing, and we wanted to see if we could learn more about what happened to Sebastian through looking at the words of his mum and his stepdad. By the way, I should have mentioned in the original episode that the Sebastian Rogers case came from audience suggestion to look at, and I'm always open to audience suggestions. If there's some interviews, some statements that you would like me to take a look at, drop them in the comments or get in touch on social media. All the links are in the show description. And if you're interested in missing persons cases like Sebastian Rogers, then please have a look at the Missing Persons YouTube playlist. There'll be a link to that in the show description as well, where there is lots more analysis of words around missing people. So let's get into the comments then. Thank you so much for all the comments. Lots of them dealt with theories and evidence and also local gossip and so on. Really interesting to read all of those. The ones I've pulled out here are some of the really interesting ones about the words used in the interview, because that's what we look at on this channel. So we'll start with this one from Sharon. She says, as a parent of an autistic teen, you're managing their behaviour every day. I want my daughter to be happy, and I managed to do that. In my opinion, the adults in Sebastian's life let him down, and that is why he is missing. Sharon, thank you for your comment. I pulled that out because I think in that one comment, I have much more of a sense of how parents deal with an autistic teen than I did when the Katie and Chris are talking in their interview. They just did not leave me with a picture, a clear picture of what dealing with Sebastian's behaviour was like. And as I said, from that and from other things, I got a feeling that they were hiding some aspects around Sebastian's behaviour or their reaction to Sebastian's behaviour. And I found that very interesting. And Sharon, thank you so much for your comment. A very clear picture of what living with an autistic teen is like. Lady Jojo talks about the weeks before he left. Yeah, Katie said that she didn't just scan the day before, but she looked at the weeks before he left as well to try and find reasons. So I found that interesting because she was only asked about, was there anything that happened that day that would have made him disappear? And she went back to weeks before, which led me to think there's been some build up to an incident that's been building up for weeks. So Lady Jojo, yeah, you got that. And always about behaviour as well. Yeah, they talk about Sebastian's behaviour a lot. So I believe Sebastian's behaviour was a big thing for them. She's hiding a lot. I think they both were hiding a lot, Lady Jojo. I have 2 sons with ASD, and she doesn't say anything positive about Sebastian and no clue of what he is really like and how ASD affects him, etc. Again, I agree. We didn't get a feeling for what Sebastian's behaviour was like at all and how they dealt with it and how they walked around it. And I felt they were hiding that from us, and his behaviour, like I said before, I'm not sure his behaviour was terrible or awful or anything like that, but their reaction to his behaviour, I think, is key to this. Another comment here from Bethany, who says, I had to tell my son to go to bed several times on occasions. Yes, so I did pick up on Katie saying that I told Sebastian to go to bed, and I said, that just leads me to think this is about control, and these are controlling parents. And look, I don't ever base a conclusion on one single thing that is said. We build up data points as we look through, and I found several of those data points. So yep, we all tell people to do things at times. It's entirely natural. It's entirely understandable that people have to be told to do things. But I did pull that one out because it just builds on this picture of them being or maybe having to be controlling of what Sebastian does. A comment here from Joanne. You're the first person I've seen publicly address the issue of wound up. Yeah, Katie said she wound up going to bed. I found that strange immediately when that interview was released. Yeah, wound up, I found, was hiding something that happened that night. We'll deal with that in some of the other comments. Joseph says, be careful, RE, word usage in different regions of the USA. I wound up going to bed. This is a typical expression in the South. I was raised in a Southern parent home. Joseph, I get this a lot, and I do understand that there are phrases, words, ways of saying things that are different from place to place. And once again, that's why I never base a conclusion on a single set of words or a single word. I never ever do that. But interestingly, Joseph, if you go back and look at the interview, she wound up doing nothing else. It was only wound up going to bed. And I was interested as to why she said that. And Wendy says, when I use the word wound up, it means there were decisions to be made and I wound up choosing one. Completely agree, Wendy. Wound up is something that happens at the end of a process. And we normally, when we use the phrase wound up, we'll talk about the events or the decisions or what was happening before you wound up doing something. I went to the cinema with lots of friends. We couldn't agree what it was we wanted to see, so we wound up seeing the Tom Cruise film. So wound up, I think, is hiding some things that happened that night. Phoenix Rising, the when I woke him up, he wasn't there, could be a cultural expression. The behaviour panel said this. It could be a cultural expression. I did think that the when I woke him up just could have been a slip because we all misspeak. I will misspeak all the time. We all misspeak. And once more, this is why never base a conclusion on a single word. Bethany, everything was pretty normal, jumped out at me immediately. Yeah, when someone feels the need to tell us things were pretty normal, I'm not saying it's a lie, but I would always dig in and look around why someone is telling us things are normal. We don't notice normal. We notice exceptions. That's why you can be driving in your car, get to your destination and think that you didn't notice anything because you were not noticing the normal things. The traffic is moving, no one is stepping out in front of you, there's no dangers ahead, and then when, boom, someone pulls out in front of you or someone steps into the road when you're driving along, you notice that abnormality. So everything was pretty normal. Yeah, jumped out at me as well, Bethany. Lady C, now thank you for this. Says, she doesn't say, I took a second walk through the house. She says, I took a second and walked through the house. Now, that is really important because, yeah, I said, why is she telling us she took a second walk through the house when she hasn't told us about the first walk through the house? Having listened to it, Lady C, and the other commenter that made that point, I think you're right. I think she said, I took a second and walked through the house. Lady C says, just for accuracy's sake, since I'm sure that's important to you. You're damn right it is. So let's just look at what she says. And Katie would now have said, I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something. So that would make a lot more sense and would take that part of the analysis out of it. Someone in the live chat did point out that after this, Katie says, 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband, and 3 is known as the liar's number. When people construct stories, the number 3 often appears in them. Don't believe me? Check out my YouTube shorts on 3 being the liar's number. I'm not saying this is a lie. What I am saying is when someone uses the number 3 in a story, I've got questions. Look, Katie said, I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast. And I went, interesting. And James says, that kid was never allowed to get up and get breakfast. I can tell by Chrissy's face. And she had to pass through the kitchen to get to his room from her bedroom to wake him up anyway. So she knew he wasn't making breakfast. Thanks for that. I pointed out Katie used the word combed twice. She combed his electronics and she combed the house, looking for what Sebastian might have been up to and also looking for Sebastian when she realised he was missing. And I said, combed, that's an interesting word that she's used twice. Karen says Katie was in the military. So combed, yeah, military may well be, use that term a lot and be trained to comb things as well. So that would explain Katie's use of the word combed. A couple of comments here from Nicole. Katie, never says I or Sebastian. So yeah, she used we and him a lot. What is the block on using Sebastian's name? And another one from Joseph said, I noted the parents do not use Sebastian's name. Really interesting. Certainly when they were asked to address Sebastian directly, they didn't say, Sebastian, please come home or anything like that. But using him can even be closer. Think about the people that are close to you. How often do you use their name? And how often do you use that shorthand, that closeness, him or her? So yeah, but it is very interesting that they never use his name. This is from Phoebe, who says, I live in rural America and calling the sheriff is normal for anything not requiring an ambulance. Thank you for that local knowledge as well. I do get that, but I have seen law enforcement people say this is a well-known tactic for people who want to not have a call recorded. It's not to call the emergency services, but to call 911. And also following that talk about that, Chris was super aware of how fast the response came once he called the sheriff's department. Another comment here says, Chris said, we want him to come back badly, but, and then the sentence finished there. We want him to come back badly, but. And this comment says, why the but? That's the kind of thing someone leaks when they are dismissing what they just said. Seen it a million times from some people I've known. I agree. When someone says but, then the thing they're going to say after the but is more important or a higher priority than what comes before the but. So, I like soft drinks, but I'm not a fan of Coca-Cola, right? So if you served me a soft drink and I went, yeah, anything, and you gave me a Coca-Cola, I'd be disappointed. That's the important thing to me, is I don't want to be disappointed. So I like soft drinks, but I don't like Coca-Cola. And what comes after the but is more important. Now, he never voices it. So he says, we want him to come back, but there is something more going on in his head, but we can't put words in his mouth because he didn't say it out loud. But we can infer that there is there is something more important. There is a thought that is bigger than Chris wanting him to come back. Wilson Jones' music goes back to that comment, when I woke him up for school. And they say, what caused the wrong tense? Exactly right. So it should have been, when I went to wake him up for school, he wasn't there. But Katie said, when I woke him up for school, he wasn't there. Now, I do think that's just a misspeak. But Wilson Jones' music says, we are all aware of how past tense slips when referencing to missing children. But what about the opposite present tense slips? When tenses are wrong, it is an indicator the speaker is not accessing their experiential memory, an analyst's way of exploring that it didn't happen. He then goes on to give some examples. It is definitely, she used the past tense. And one of the reasons why she used the wrong tense or the wrong context. And one of the reasons that can happen is it's not coming from experiential memory. It's coming from a script that is in the head. And it is possible. I do think it's also very possible it's a misspeak and it's just something that came out through stress or not thinking clearly. But I would be looking at, you said you woke him up for school and he wasn't there. I would be asking more questions about that. Autumn Melody, great name. Thank you for your comment. How would she know he walked out that door if she didn't see him? Great question. Katie said, I don't know why he walked out that door. And she doesn't say it's seeing him walk out the door or talking about him walk out the door. But yeah, she does talk about walking out the door. Someone's got an interesting theory on that, which we'll come to in a bit. Ellie says, I don't know why. And that's the I don't know why she walks out the door. Ellie says she does know why. On the why, she closes her eyes with such recollection, almost too painful to bear, even sense of guilt and regret. And I agree, she does know why. I think they both know why Sebastian is no longer in that house, and they were hiding that when they were talking in the interview. Martina says, I don't know why he walked out that door. I think that I don't know is a distraction to establish that he walked out the door, to make people accept without question that he did, when they should be questioned if he actually did. And yes, it could be that. The interviewer didn't pick up on that. The interviewer did not say, oh, which door did he walk out? How do you know he walked out a door? How do you know he wasn't abducted? And so on. A comment here from T Trees. Why does Chris interject and deflect away from the space held when Katie's questioning why he walked out the door? I find that very suspicious. I did not notice this, but if you have a listen to what they say, Katie says, I don't know why he walked out the door. And Chris comes in fairly quickly and talks about Sebastian's behaviour. Have a listen.
I don't know why he walked out that door.
I mean, he's a good kid. He's not a mischievous child by any means.
So Katie says, I don't know why he walked out the door. And Chris comes in to say he's a good kid and not mischievous. That to me suggests a very strong possibility that the reason he walked out the door was through misbehaviour. Tea trees, I think an absolutely excellent comment. Thank you for that. This is from Lara. They were stressing that they were not to have any arguments or fights, but Katie included a plea, you're not in trouble. Agreed. They go to great issues to say that he's a good kid, that there were no fights, that his behaviour is bang on. And yet when talking to him directly, Katie says, you're not in trouble. And Chris also says, there's no malice. So once more, that is something that points me towards their perception of the behaviour of Sebastian is one of the reasons, in fact, probably the reason why some incident happened that night and why Sebastian is no longer in that house. I picked on the interviewer a bit. I did not like the interviewer. Vicky says, I understand that the interviewer is a relative of Chris and Katie. Don't know, can't prove that, but interesting. And Ramona says the interviewer is not an interviewer. She's a news reporter for one of our local TV stations in Nashville. I'm sure she has interviewed in the past, but she now sits behind the camera and reports. I don't know why she was picked to do the interview, but wonder if she was the only one Chris and Katie would allow, or maybe they requested her. She is the most beloved TV reporter in our area and has been for years. Everybody loves her. They should have given her a set of questions to ask. Now, I thought that the interviewer was really poor. She talked about Sebastian in the past tense as if he was dead, and that should be an absolute no-no when you're interviewing the parents of a missing child. She also would ask a question and then suggest answers, and the Proudfoots would pick up on those suggestions and go with those suggestions. So I thought she was very poor. But listen, if she is the most beloved TV reporter in the area and everyone loves her, she is doing something right. And listen, the comments on this episode have been fantastic, but there's always one, and it's Estelle who is the one for this one. She says, I don't see anything wrong with the way she phrased things. Everybody has their own way of talking and not everyone speaks grammatically perfect English. Nothing suspicious here. This is just nitpicking. He was autistic, therefore parents have to be a bit more forceful, such as telling him to go to bed. So, Estelle, let's go through your comment one by one. I don't see anything wrong with the way she phrased things. I'd like you to point out where in the episode I said there was anything wrong with the way she phrased things. What I do is ask why certain things were phrased in a certain way, or ask why certain words were chosen. And then through that, build up a picture of repeated speaking, repeated words, repeated concepts that come up that ask me the questions. And very often that leads me to where the truth is. Everybody has their own way of talking. Correct. Not everyone speaks grammatically perfect English. Correct. That's why I never pick on one thing in particular. We build up a picture through doing more and more and more and more analysis. Nothing suspicious here. Disagree. There's a lot being hidden here, and that's factually in the words that they are hiding things. This is just nitpicking. I get that all the time, but look, call me a nitpicker if you want. Maybe there's nothing wrong with nitpicking in this sense. Maybe call me pedantic. I don't care. This works. He was autistic, therefore parents have to be a bit more forceful, such as telling him to go to bed. Completely agree. Telling someone to go to bed, telling your child to go to bed is not a crime, is nothing wrong, and I did not say it was once. But thank you for your comment, Estelle, and I hope I've cleared up that this nitpicking, this pedantry does work. Thank you for all the comments. If you've got any more, you can leave them here on this platform if you like, or get in touch on social media. All the links are down below. As I say often, you are the marketing team for Never a Truer Word, because there ain't no marketing budget. So if you want to share this with people, I know that the last one was shared massively on Facebook, and I don't always get to see them, so I can't always say thank you. So thank you if you shared the previous episode on Facebook. If you want to share this one anywhere with people who'd be interested in Sebastian's case or in missing people in general, that would be great. And if you want more like this, please subscribe or follow and hit the like or the plus button if you can, because that helps get this to more people and is part of the free marketing, because we ain't got no budget. Also, if you like, please check out neveratruerword.com. On there, you will find links to podcasts, including a series on O.J. Simpson, which might be of interest given recent events. All the links to social media as well, so you can get in touch or follow there. You could sign up for the monthly newsletter where you'll learn a bit more about decoding what people are saying just through looking at their words. And all the videos as well are on there, neveratruerword.com. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.